comments open so I can actually see what everyone's reading. So, hi, boys. Welcome to AmassGames. My name is Simon. So, I'm here with Steve from One Stop Co-op Shop. Steve and I have been collaborating on Ollie's board game channel to do with Best of the Month. And he's one of numerous people who have been very kind with each other. I'm not saying I'm not kind, but Steve in particular focuses on the co-op side of things. And one of my buddies who I play a lot with, big fan of Steve at One Stop Co-op Shop, patron, and an avid watcher. So here I am today to ask Steve some questions. Steve, tell me about yourself.
Well, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be part of this, so I appreciate reaching out, and I always take a chance to talk about board games for sure.
Always. Fantastic. Cool. Well, we've already got a watcher, which is fantastic. We're already 30 seconds in. I can say right away that I can see Aeon's End Legacy behind you, and I can see Outcasts. Those are the two I have. And I've already played through it once as a 2, and I've playing through it again with somebody else as a 2, because obviously there's 4 boards. Have you played? This is not scripted, and none of these questions Steve knows in advance unless he's watched other stuff on the channel. But it will be going to my tabletop playlist amongst others. In terms of Legacy, how many players have you played it with, and have you played it through it more than once?
I have played through the whole thing once, and it was only with my wife, so just the two of us played through it. And yeah, we played through short when it came out, but we actually really enjoyed it. My wife is really into the story of it, actually, so she follows along with the, because there's a backstory of all the characters, stuff like that. But I really liked having not much of a spoiler, but you do make your own mage at the end of it, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't played the original, but I know it basically becomes Aeon's End at the end. So have you played any others apart from Outcast out of interest?
Yes, I've played all of them except for the last one that came out, which is Legacy of
Greyfold. Yeah.
That one I haven't played.
Unfortunately. Yep. No, so if you're watching, we want to do that. We'll do a cross the pond video. That's our way of introducing ourselves into cross affiliations. So Outcast I have played through, and I know there's a particularly hard boss at the beginning. I think the nemesis there, the one with the Moors, and I've used some of the characters from Aeon's End Legacy in it. Have you tried mixing the stuff up much? Are you much of a mixer?
We do mix a lot. That one we did beat that particularly difficult one, the one with the Moors, but we weren't really satisfied with the outcome, so we're going to replay it again. But we're going to play through with the characters in the box first. But after we're done, we mix it up, of course.
Fantastic. Cool. Okay, so what are you up to these days? What's let's say the most recent game you played? And I'm assuming it's a co-op. I don't know are you 100% co-op? I know you're 99 probably, but just checking on that. You got 7 Wonders, so of course you're not. So yeah.
Yeah, I do have competitive games with me just because I like to have a collection where if people come over, I want to have a game that's going to fit for anybody, right? For me personally, I am basically playing co-ops 100% of the time, and it has a lot to do with the channel just because, as you know, as a content creator, time's limited. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And so I've changed. I knew I made a mistake. Everyone does this. I keep changing each day. Each time I'm doing a different stream. So this one is actually Can you recognize the game Mountains of Madness, which I believe is a co-op? So obviously yellow. Sure. So each day each video I'm doing a different one. The continuity is I'm kind of generally the same clothing. Different haircut, shorter haircut for you, special say, Steve. So, so remind me again, what was your most recent one you were playing? And again, is it a game you've been playing a lot?
Yeah, well, the most recent one I played is completely new to me. It's a preview we took a look at, Leviathan Wilds. Okay. This game, it's not on Kickstarter yet. It will be, I think, in June timeframe.
Okay.
But I run a Discord community, and it's one of our members, Terrence, posted this link to this, and we all got excited because it is basically, if you play video games, Shadow of the Colossus, the video game in board game form. And so the premise is you are climbing these giant colossal creatures and trying to not fall down as you're trying to knock crystals off it and stuff like that. And it was actually really, really good. I really enjoyed that one.
Cool, fantastic. You've got The Captain is Dead. That is a game I've yet to play. That's in my top 20 games I'm very keen to play. It's not in my top 10 according to Board Game Geek, but it's just outside of that. So that's definitely one I'm really keen to try eventually. And in terms of, I guess, you've talked about your most recent plays. What about your most played game? I don't know if you use Board Game Stats or anything to kind of, analyze that and stuff like that. Sounds like you do. So, yeah.
I do. Recently, our most played game is Assassin's Creed because my wife and I are playing through that board game. That's from Triton Noir. I'm a big sucker for stealth games, so any type of stealth game, I'm all in. And so we've got, I think, 2 more games left to finish the campaign. But if I'm looking at my most played games, my number 1 most played game is Lord of the Rings: The Living Card Game.
Okay.
So that is by Fantasy Flight Games. And my second most played game is Marvel Legendary.
Oh yeah,
deck builder.
Lovely. With all the expansions, or as many as you can get in there as pound. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Yes,
pretty much
I've
all.
also.
So,
Yeah, we mixed them all together. So I've got the Lord of the Rings card game. About 5 different Lord of the Rings games. That one I've yet to play, and it's on my shelf of shame. It's coming down. It's just under 30, so it's been just under hitting 30 for a week now. So it's my birthday next Saturday, so I'm hoping to get 7 off that. So that's kind of like a weird, bizarre wish list. So we've talked about your most played games. What about your favorite game, if there is one, or whatever's in flavor of the month, let's say?
I
Could be different when next time we chat.
That's right. I'll answer in a second. But my birthday is a day after yours, apparently.
Oh, really? The 20th? I also know
20th,
someone's
yeah.
called the 20th. Oh, wow. There we go. I'm Bruce Willis. I don't know who you are. I'm same as Bruce Willis, also left-handed. So, and I've met 7 people who've got the same birthday as me, which in person, that's quite unusual, I think.
Yeah.
You have to be in a situation to even know to ask that. So, well, obviously, many happy returns for that. I mean, are you getting anything for your birthday? Any presents? Any board game related stuff that you know?
Normally I'll sub an event to like have people come over, because I'm at the point now where I don't need a whole lot more stuff. I got enough stuff.
Exactly.
To be honest,
I said no more.
Exactly. But like for me, the value is having people come over and hang out. In fact, that's kind of why I got into board game in the first place. Yeah. It was that social experience and having something common at the table that we can all have a shared experience with, and that's what drew me into the copy. So
yeah, just seeing someone hate you over in a game is like ugh. And that's, I think, one of the first co-op games. Well, Zombicide would be probably one of the first ones more recently. I say more recently, like 10 plus years ago. But then I was over in Germany, and my wife's German, in case you didn't know, and we happened to be playing over there. They have another game. So again, games come out years in advance, apart from like some Fantasy Realms, whereby the UK, we had it really ahead, like years ahead of obviously the Americans as well. But over there, we played Legends of Andor in German the years before that came out. And I was like, wow. I knew it was just being nominated for Spiel.digital at the time. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. And now I've since owned it. I've been playing through it so much. I do have the expansions, but again, it's still on the shelf of shame because I've been going through teaching about over 40 different people, just playing through it. Obviously, Scenario 3, because the first 2 are tutorials. I never teach them those. And missions 4 and 5, so 4's the back of the board. But 5 is hard. And I mean, I'm sure you're nodding, so I'm sure you know about it. But mission 3, there's 10 different fate cards. So I thought, well, how can I make sure I get more than just 3 games out of this? Because that's not much. So I've been playing through every single fate card and then every different flips, a bit like Quacks of Quedlinburg, every different combination of that. So that's been a lot of fun. I do have the Adventures of Robin Hood still unopened. So that might kick in this year. We're hinting about that because there's some fan-made stuff. I don't know if you've played it, but that's also coming out. That's in Cosmos, which was obviously Andor. But then I have the Fantasy Flight Edition, and now it's owned again by Cosmos. So I've got an American and published printed version, but now it's had to be tweaked. So I've had to have it sleeved and then rewrite some of the cards or put stuff on the cards to kind of overlay that because of some balancing issue or something. But big fan of that. So in terms of game you're most proud of, I don't know if that would touch on your favorite game or not, if you may say it's the same, different, or otherwise.
Yeah, I think that kind of why I started recording my plays in the first place, because I was curious. Like, I got to the point my hobby where I was just buying all these games, and I kind of wanted to know, well, what games should I buy next? And so that's what led me to recording my plays, because I figure if it's in the table, that's the most important thing. Like, that's at the end of the day. So, and that's where it led me to. I noticed a trend where I was playing a lot more co-ops, because with my wife, she'll try any game, but she very much gravitates towards being on the same side. And so that's what led to the co-op side and going down that path. Favorite games, I think definitely my top games will align with that. Like Lord of the Rings Living Card Game, love that one. Spirit Island is probably that's my number one right now, I'd say. Game of all time. Street Masters, big fan of that one.
Oh yeah, I played that. Yeah, bit too tactical for me, I found, but that's just me. Sure. You don't have to end the broadcast there. Oh, in terms of Spirit Island, I know massive fans of it, particularly people playing it by themselves. I generally find it's a bit too abstract for me personally. Sure. I mean, there's got to be something which I disagree with, and it just happens to be that one of other things. Stephen Bonacore, he said Meadow for him, so there's always something that chimes differently. But yeah, cool, very interesting.
Yeah, I can definitely see the abstractness of that, especially since you get into the puzzle. Like it kind of overwhelms the theme at times. The
Yeah.
cards I find thematic in sense, and that kind of draws me back in. But I think we're similar in that sense, where like there has to be some type of theme that keeps me anchored to the game.
Is this for Spirit Island or for Meadow out of interest? Because Meadow
Sorry,
haven't
sorry.
played
Some
yet.
of Spirit Island with some
A
of
few,
the
just double
cards.
checking. Yeah.
I haven't
That's-
played Meadow, so I can't talk to that
No, I
much.
was due to play it last year, but again, I could have played that one, including when you see things like Captain is Dead, and there's another one, Barrage, and a few other ones. I'm like, I could have, and Container, or I could play this game, or I could play this game. I don't know which one. I'll play this one, like, or Tapestry, I'll play it, and then next time you never see that game again because people just bring out different games next time. So
Right.
it just happens. Then you never know what's going to be the next big thing, whatever it might be. But it's an interesting point about your wife saying about rather being on the same side, because I play a lot in public venues, lots of pubs that I arrange and stuff like that. And when women do attend, and sometimes there has been some bad evenings where it's been like one woman's turned up, there's like 50 men. But sometimes we've had more women than men, which has been fantastic. So it's nice to see obviously that mix. And I've generally found women do gravitate more to cooperative games, as I think typically about 35%. I think 35% of all games I think are not co-op, but preferred by women or something. What I don't mean by that, it's a bizarre statistic. The majority of women prefer co-ops, and I think something like 35% of the industry is now played by women. And apparently, it's just their preferred thing. And I think it's if they don't like ganged up on. But then equally, I know some very competitive women players, and I think that might be the thing. I think they've realised how competitive they are, and I just don't want to show that side of me. That's why I have to be on the same side. Maybe they're like, it's like a very meta hidden role element, like traitor element that they're going very deep on over 10 years, like don't get got or something. I'm not sure, but it's of interest.
Sure.
You never know what's going to transpire and what could happen. But it's interesting when you say what people like, because someone I was conversing with today to do with board games, they won't say what they like, but they'll definitely say what they don't want to play. Yeah. And they will say, I don't want to play that. And it's a bit like bingo or battleships or something, very meta, because it's like, all right, should we play this? And like, yeah, should we play that? No. So they'll never recommend something. So it's just about bringing something out and saying, have you played this before? Yes or no is basically the answer. So it's very interesting. Oh, and in terms of BG stats, just in sort of my background, I think around 2016, I started to, you can kind of go into Board Game Geek and not check it as owned, but you can comment or do something with it, and basically as a tick mark to show that it's kind of not owned, but it's of all time. So it's to do like rankings and ratings, but it can be unrated. And if you go to BG, I mean, mine's about 1,800 and something odd in terms of rating, but it's very similar. Like it's about 20 difference. But then obviously for the year after that, I then ended up choosing to log the date. The year after that, I started to use obviously the stats app. So then I started to log, I think, people. The year after that, I started to log scores. The year after that, time. And we're only about a couple of years away now. So that's basically how it's got more and more accurate, let's say, and I spent more and more time doing it. But I do log to the minute. Do you log time as well? Is that something you put into?
No, actually, I didn't go that far into it. In fact, I did almost the bare minimum where I didn't even record games that I didn't own as plays. And I just recorded games I played because, like I said earlier, my goal was try what games in my collection are hitting the table and go from there.
Yeah.
But I know most people aren't weird like me and they record normal plays. So
no, that's a very good way of actually being very insightful about your collection, because I've been very, I guess, fortunate. I don't know if that's the right word, because for many years I would rather play someone else's game than mine, purely because I haven't played it, and that could be the next game that I want to get, and obviously show off to other people. And that's generally how I think most people are in terms of they want to. It's cold to the new. They don't ever know. And that's the very weird thing about board games. It's so popular, but then, they still think there must be a better game out there. And, there's numerous reasons why chess has lasted the test of time, but equally they want to have something a bit different to go alongside it. And obviously Monopoly is just too far of the other end of the spectrum for everybody, I think. So that's why we're here to advocate. And obviously people on YouTube and stuff can watch, like and subscribe and share and all the rest. So what about, is there any games that you've played or you've just had a thought about having a design for or wish I've made, anything like that?
Yeah, actually, I've got two in my head that I've been mulling around. One was the original approach was I loved a Wild West game, but like co-op. Cool. But I liked vigilantes back then. Like I used to watch a show called Wild West Tech. It's on History Channel. It was a History Channel back in the day, and it went through like all the stories from back then and the technology used back then. It was really fascinating, and it fascinated me because there were stories of like people like, oh yeah, there's the sheriff in town's not taking care of this problem, but so the team rouse together and they like basically take over the town. And there's one instance where they had like cannons on top of a building, and like the local military would have a lot of trouble taking back. But the funny thing is, after they took care of the threat of the criminals, they just went back to doing the job. Like that was all they wanted. They didn't care about anything else. So it's very fascinating. So like basically that, but like Red Dead Redemption type style would be awesome. So I've got some notes on that one, but between content creation and everything else, it's a slow process.
That's interesting. So go ahead.
Oh, so the other one I had was a game about ants. And this came up because I was listening to a podcast about how ant colonies work and how they cooperate together. And it kind of like wrote its own story when I was listening to how they work together. And I thought it'd be really cool. It's a weird theme, but I think it would work really well for a cooperative game.
That, in terms of being co-op and ants, that makes a lot of sense. There are games out there such as March of the Ants, and I guess Hive, is kind of colony related. There is a game called Colony, it's a whole other matter, but we're going to be literally down rabbit holes and ant holes in a second otherwise. But in terms of, so Western Legends, I've now created a playlist. I played a couple of plays today. One of them is the Brett J. Gilbert playlist. So you may be familiar with his stuff. Roll for Adventure. Have you come across that game, co-op game?
Yes, I played Roll for Adventure. Yep.
Cool. So I was very lucky because for about 4 years, I was gaming at a place, and there's a woman who ran it, and she was there all the time, always playing games. And anyway, one time, this guy turned up and he brought like a play test of the game. Oh, well, fair enough. I haven't met him before. Do that. Introduce his name. Hi, I'm Brett. I'm Andrea's sister. I went, oh, Brett J. Gilbert, you're the Brett. Yeah. And I was like going to shake his hand and stuff. And wow, I never knew the whole time. Anyway, it turned out that he'd had like early copies of like Mandala. So I had that on the channel really early. Did like a playthrough as well. It's months ahead of other people. And of course, the trouble is like that. If nobody knows what it is, you're not going to get views anyway. But it is what it is. It got 5K plus currently. So it's something. But of course, people are going to do a better video at the time because rules changed and whatever. But he happens to have brought other games, such as I've had a chance to record Pyramids. Borrowed it and borrowed some other games. But Roll for Adventure, I heard about it because it was selling really well in Germany, speaking again about the German market first. Mm-hmm. And then it just turned out that, look, I'm allowed to have a certain amount of copies. I've got a few spare. It's in German. So if you want a copy, and of course, my wife could just translate anything we need to. I said, sure. So absolutely loved it. You never know if it's going to be good, but those guys together just make excellent games typically. They're always like Spiel.digital, mid-weight, not too complex as opposed to heavy, not heavy either. So yeah, looking forward to all their stuff. And I've got Great Plains, which is him, Brett, with Trevor Benjamin, which I look forward to trying out, which also is with Mandala. So yeah, very interesting. And in terms of Western Legends, I'm playing that again tomorrow. The what's it called? The Blood Money expansion again with my buddy. So trying that. That's been set up for a week because we end up playing other stuff with other people, but it's been there. I've extended the table just so it's out of the way and giving that one a go. So in terms of, I guess, is there anything in terms of board games which you would regard as like your funniest moments? Anything they're like, oh, they did that, or whatever it might be. I don't know. Hopefully not a table spill.
Or like, players or game design or anything.
I'll keep it open. So yeah, would you say there's, I don't know, you were playing a co-op. As an example, I was playing, this isn't a co-op, but something like Spyfall, whereby, I had never played it before. The person explaining it didn't tell me what the spy looked like. So all I could see was this man with headphones on. And if you don't know, that is what the spy looks like. And they said, where are you? And I had to go first. And I was like, oh, yeah. Because I thought everyone had a different one, but similar to my one. I went, oh, yeah. Well, there are people there, quite a lot of people. And it's quite dark normally. There can be a lot of dancing and stuff like that. And, oh, yeah, that's really good. And then everyone else kept going around. Apparently, it's a cruise ship. So it all makes a lot of sense. And then they said other stuff like, I said, and I thought, well, with nightclubs, because again, it looked like it's a nightclub. Oh, there's a lot of water there. Yeah. Everyone else went, and they still couldn't find anyone. And eventually I said, and there's not much food. Oh, no, you're the spy.
Yes.
So that was one of the funniest ones. And a similar one, which also involves Spyfall, is someone forgot to shuffle in the spy. So for ages in a different game, everybody just thought, this is amazing. And I said, after about, I don't know, an hour maybe not an hour, but, can everyone just reveal it? 'Cause now we're just playing a co-op, literally. But anyway, over to you, Steve. What do you reckon? Any
Oh
thoughts?
man, you made me think of one game I played some time ago. This was a game similar with the trader type games. It was One Night Ultimate Werewolf. I'm not sure if you played that one.
Tons.
So,
Yeah.
so this one we played the game, and my buddy he wound up kind of playing dumb, and it wound up working really well for him because like, oh, I'm not sure how this works, not sure who it was, and he was actually the werewolf, and he wound up winning.
Okay.
Like, oh, that's good play, good play.
I thought you meant the dummy or whoever it is, the drunk. Something
Oh,
like
the
that.
drunk, yeah. So, and then we played the second one, and I think he was, yes, he was the dummy then, or the drunk, the one who wants to be
Yeah.
offed, right? And so, and he plays the same thing,
Oh, that's
and
the
we're like,
Tanner.
oh, what's that?
The Tanner's the guy who wants to get shot.
Thank you. That's the one. That's the role. And so he plays through it, and I'm like, dude, what's going on? Oh, you can't play the same trick again. So we all like point to him, and sure enough, he flips over, and he is the guy who wants to get the Tanner. It's like, oh, I win, and we are like, oh, can't believe you pulled it. And we look around the board, and then somehow someone switched roles. Where I think it was me. I had the role which was whoever I point to is saved. And I was pointing to him, so it actually like backfired. And then
Oh,
who we
no.
pointed to actually won the game, and so it was just a big ruckus around the table. Like, oh my gosh,
Wow.
can't believe what happened! And yeah, that was a really fun moment.
It's so funny when you play someplace, especially in public venues, and you've ordered food or something, and everyone's got their eyes closed, and you just hear this food come down on the table. But sometimes I've seen groups play for 3.5 hours. This like that's a lot of commitment. 3.5 hours a werewolf, to be honest, is
Oh yeah,
a bit too much, I think,
for sure.
possibly. But I definitely like mixing it with Daybreak. I played the majority. I played Vampire. I've played obviously Alien, and I think even the superheroes a little bit. I did really like the 1 week Ultimate Werewolf. It's a lot more strategic, and I would definitely like playing the Robber. Just the Robber that just take it, and now you have no idea. So, but a game like Masquerade, it doesn't hold a candle to it, in my opinion. So yeah, that's the thing. And so we've talked about your most funniest moment. What about, I guess, the most memorable? That might be something different. I don't know. Well, that might be like, I don't know, a proposal happened at a game session. I have no idea. Anything that you thought this is good? Maybe it'd be Pandemic Legacy moment, or without spoilers, but anything comes to your mind?
Yeah, I've got a few memorable moments. A lot of them have been around role playing games, just because that story that people tell and then that comes out of it. So I've got stories from that one for sure. I think I can dive into that briefly, but we were playing Star Wars role playing game, and the guys noticed on the skill sheet one of the skills was cool skill. I'm like, what is this? It's like basically remaining calm during a stressful situation.
Okay.
And they had to get into this hangar bay. There's some security droids, and so he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna use this cool skill and walk by these droids." I'm like, "Okay, sure, why not?" Because I was GMing at the time. Like, it makes sense. So he walks by, and then like, sure, he passes, but then they get a little more suspicious. And his brother tries walking by, but gets spotted. And but look at his behind this droids, and they had this big old fight behind it. It was just really funny that they latched onto this cool skill and managed to turn into the whole like narrative element from that. So I've got a lot of stories from that one. But I guess the other one that really jumps to my head is we were playing Defenders of the Realm. I know you said you like Pandemic, so this is like a Pandemic style game, fantasy setting, where we're ready to play. My wife stands up and she's gonna roll this dice for this attack, and before we roll the dice, she goes da 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 and rolls the dice. We're like, what was that? And she was like playing this epic music because it's a big epic moment for her as she's playing. So that one stood in my mind too. But yeah,
cool.
A lot of fun moments.
And just from the top of that, the final letter looked like a D. Is that Small World over your left shoulder?
Yeah, Small World's up there. Yep,
cool.
Behind me.
I did left shoulder just to make sure you turn the right way, but that's fine. And obviously got Dark Moon up there, of course, another sort of hidden role game. Any theme that just is coming to mind? What theme? Any themes that really kind of stick out for you that you kind of go towards, if any?
Yeah, I'm a sucker for Marvel for sure. Marvel superhero themes, I like that a lot. Fantasy's great. Sci-fi, like sci-fi too. Those are big ones. Stealth is the biggest one. Like if there's a game with stealth in it, some kind where you're sneaking around,
that kind of stuff.
Well, Spectre Ops is fun, right? Yeah, but I like the cooperative stealth ones if possible. Like V Sabotage or V Command is what it's called. Assassin's Creed, like we're saying, has stealth in it as well. U-Boat, which I don't know, not a lot of people have heard about.
I haven't played it yet. I mean, I don't know if I'm not hearing about it. Sorry, pardon the pun. I'm not. It's not on the radar currently. But yes, I remember it coming out. It's. I guess a game needs to either be talked about for a while. I mean, like this year, and I haven't heard anyone talk about it this year. But that way, you have to be on the Facebook groups maybe to kind of get that discovered, or the
Yeah,
YouTube channels. And again, with the YouTube channels, what do they talk about? Including on Discord. I don't board was saying he's playing Iberian Rails, and that isn't a new title, and it's quite nice to have some more refreshing than whether people get sent games or otherwise. If it's
right.
something a newish title, then you have the assumption that maybe, especially as an influencer, there's probably a reason behind it. They're there to influence. But if it's an older title, it's probably different. Such as Fields of Arda is not a new title, so it's nice to just mix it up and color your collection or whatever it might be to get that kind of stuff to the table. Speaking of which, obviously there is a new thing which I'm not involved with, at least presently. Maybe I will be, and maybe you will be, and that's Astro Knights, the new Aeon's End kind of reskin, because it's not Marvel. But I don't know what your views are on that. Obviously it looks a bit more kiddish. I'm not saying Marvel is kiddish, just that you know.
No, it's fine. Yeah, Mike played that for the channel. So on One Stop, there's actually 6 of us that contribute to the
Yeah.
YouTube channel. Because it's just too much. In fact, we have 2 separate channels now because there's just so much content coming around. But he played that, and I watched his play and talked to him a bit about it. And it looks good, but I already have so much Aeon's End, so for me, it was an easy one to pass on that because
Exactly.
it didn't seem different enough. Put that way.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Marvel Champions, obviously, I've got a Marvel playlist myself now. But what about Marvel United? I've heard Dice Tower talk about that. What's your views on that? Is it a Champions killer? And what do you like about it?
Good question. Yeah, I did do a video at one point talking about Legendary, United, and Champions because I feel like those are the 3 big hitting Marvel games.
Yeah.
Marvel United, love it. I love it. I wasn't sure if I was going to like it. I did go all in on it the first time around, and the second time around, I got all in coming as well. I figured because I've got a young son, he's 7 currently, and he loves that type of stuff. He loves miniatures and superheroes. So, at worst, he would enjoy it. But I wound up being surprised that I actually enjoyed it, and my wife and I played quite a bit online on our streams. United's great. Champions is really fun too, and then Legendary is one we like a lot as well. Now, comparing them, Champions is the card play is excellent. That game, it's superb.
Yeah.
The one thing I don't like about Champions is the pacing of it. I feel like because the bad guy is trying to achieve his end, but you can roll back time and you can almost maintain that rollback. It's not, there's no pressure at times. Well, I shouldn't say that because things come out the deck and you have to deal with it, of course, but it doesn't have that pacing that I like in other games. So that one, I kind of rank lower than the other 2. United is so quick. It takes 20 minutes to play a game. So that one hits the table a lot for us. So that one's a big plus for me. And then Legendary, there's just so much for it. It's just, I never get bored playing that one.
Yeah, and if you want to lose and have a quick game of Legendary, just play Alien Legendary as well.
Yes.
Game will be over quickly. So there's that to bear in mind. So yeah, in terms of, I guess, Champions, I mean, all co-op games have to have peril. And one game that I spoke to the publisher of Mantic, I don't know if you've played any Mantic games, such as Hellboy. I don't know if you've had a chance. So I just felt, I spoke to, I forgot the guy's name now, but I basically said, this is one of the first co-ops I felt didn't have peril. I felt we're doing stuff and we won. I don't know if you feel peril is important, but I feel that you've got to feel like you can lose, especially in a co-op, obviously, because you can lose against someone else. But if you don't, I mean, I've played some zombie games, not highly rated necessarily, Zombies Keep Out and stuff like that. And what's the new one? There's a Zombies Kids Evolution. I don't know if you've come across that one. I've played the first level and it was fairly easy. I know there's tiering to it, but of course they demo you the beginning one. But I mean, have you played Zombie Kids Evolution or Zombies Keep Out or zombie games? I don't know.
I've done Keep Out. I did not do Kids Evolution, but I'm familiar with that one. But to get to your question on the peril of it, and I think this is something where maybe I fall on a very different spectrum than most people. I totally understand the draw is, you want to have that difficult to win situation. That's why I want to bring it to the table, the puzzle, right? And for me, it's, of course I play to win, but for me, I really don't care if I win or lose. And I mean, I'll play games that are super, super challenging and I lose all the time. That's fine. It doesn't bother me. And I'll play games where I win most of the time and that's fine too. It doesn't really bother me either.
Yeah.
But I do think you need to have the challenge for the interesting decisions, right? Or those interesting decisions have to come out, because for me, it's more about the decisions and less about the winning or losing when it comes to gameplay.
Correct. Yeah, for me, I'm very much a casual gamer. People do not believe. I mean, literally, I could be playing Quacks of Quedlinburg, or I could be varying other things, and literally, I'm like, my arm is just like, my arms are chilling on the back of chairs. I'm just doing this, and they're saying, "Oh, come on, son, take it seriously." And actually, in a game which is competitive, I might be only losing by like 1 point if I happen to lose. So actually, it's just because I don't like obviously AP, analysis paralysis, or anyone who doesn't familiar with those terms. And it's just about bam. I'd rather take a quick decision and just chill out and just chat to people. And if I happen to win, then that shouldn't make them look like losers or anything like that. But I do know when I do watch people mind crunch for 20 minutes for that final turn, and then they win, it's like, oh, so maybe I should just spend another 20 minutes. And what I mean by that is it just slows everything down.
Yeah.
So you can do that, but I think that doesn't have to be a part of it. So in terms of zombies keep out, though, again, I have been to complete it on easy. And I think that's the thing with co-ops. Luckily, they do have tiering, like with Pandemic. And, I have managed to complete it on Abomination. I think, in fact, one occurrence on each level, and that was it. So, all right, I can sell it now. Whereas Pandemic World of Warcraft, have you had a chance with that one yet?
I have not played that one. I did watch the playthrough of it. It looked pretty cool, but I haven't played it personally.
Okay, cool. My playthrough, or it's on a different channel? Just let you know.
I did see part of your playthrough, and I did watch playthroughs on other channel as well. Yep.
Okay, so so we played it on basic mode. Literally, there's 4 tiers, unlike Pandemic 3. The very first one, we won it, and like, for example, speaking of choice, for good point, you can either go and fight the main boss, or you can try and do the side quests kind of thing, or you can find the minions, or you can try and do the quests. Straight away, we went for the quest, and we did it. The second level up, we kind of the same thing. The third level off, we lost at, and I tried doing a solo playthrough by myself. Yeah, obviously by myself solo, and it was on Mythic. Now, of course, I did get trashed, and it's the same way you'd lose in the other one. And I do know in video games, people sometimes just play the hardest level, and that's like BioShock and stuff like this. But the reason I moved to board games 10 odd years ago and a bit is because I look at screens so much that I need to make sure that I just have a way out. And I guess it happened to be, the rise of smartphones that kind of actually led to my increase in board game time. Although ironically, we're now watching screens for videos and stuff like this. So it is. But for me, amongst other things, that sociability, it's just like, no, I want to chill out, and I'd rather just play out and not play to win. But whilst I am saying that, sometimes I'm secretly doing it. And someone didn't chastise me, but I do know they watch my last live stream, and I happened to be playing Architects West Kingdom, and I literally accumulated 50 stone, or brick, I think it's stone. And I thought, I literally had nothing in my hand which was efficient, nothing that they could see that was efficient. And he only lost by 2 points in the end, in a 3-player game, I think it was. Wow. And it turned out I still needed more stone, actually, for the thing I was doing. So there are some really interesting strategies in that game. But the first 2 games, it seemed to be just the Architect track. I mean, it is called Architects. Sure. But then I have discovered more and more, and we're looking forward to doing, obviously, the Tome Saga as well. In terms of your views on, you've spoken about, obviously, peril and choice. Are there anything else that you think that you would like in a cooperative game?
I think it might dive into variability. Definitely comes into play, like Marvel Legendary, where it can just combine decks together, or try like what happens if I combine these together, or the living card games when I build different decks or build a team to approach something. I like to see what happens. I like to see. I use the term exploration in what the game can have to offer. That's a big plus for me, and it actually goes to the next level where I also love house rules. I really enjoy employing house rules. I won't do it when people visit, unless I tell them, hey, it's a house rule I like playing because X, Y, Z. If you want, we can do it. If we don't, that's fine. No big deal. But for me, a lot of times I do house rules to, speaking of challenge, to make things harder. Like a lot of people on the Discord who watch the stuff I do, they give me a hard time because like, oh, it's house rule again to make it harder. And like my wife knows, like, is this the right way to play? Or are you making it harder on ourselves? Like, so sorry, we're making it challenging. So long story short, when it comes down to it, the variability and the way to explore the games, because that's where I like the decisions are what drives me to games, and anything I can get more of that in and explore more of those decision space is a big plus.
Cool, fantastic. And of course, it makes it more interesting for everyone else. Literally, that word challenges is more challenging for them because there's more variability. It just changes what they do. And you heard it here, folks. It's Professor Steve here. It's variability. There we go. So, anything you think they shouldn't be doing? Because of course, lots of different characters. It sounds like you're quite into your CCGs kind of stuff as well. Anything that you think don't take this away? For example, I don't know. Pandemic has in the fact that you swap cards, which probably came from, I'm guessing, the Lord of the Rings from Reiner Knizia in the year 2000. Anything that you feel that, I don't know, anything that could change that you think, don't do this or maybe do this? A bit of a different question because it's a different kind of an audience. But do you think as a co-op game they shouldn't choose to, I don't know, have maybe less talking, less communication, like in, I don't know, like the Mind or something like the Crew, something like that?
I've had issues with some games where the talking is restricted too much. Generally,
Okay.
that's not a problem. I think the big one that comes out is luck. A lot of times talk about dice luck and stuff, and I honestly I often agree where I want mitigation. I don't want luck to determine the outcome of the game. But I play games where like one of them I'll mention is Rambo. It's a cooperative game, and there is literally like no luck in it. You know what's going to happen when you play your cards and everything. And it's so deterministic in that it kind of removes some of the tension or the possibilities in that game. You can kind of math it out. And so I think I want some luck in game, enough where it adds decision points, but not too much luck where it removes the impact of your decisions, where your decisions don't matter. And so I think that's the one thing I would want to make sure is don't remove too much luck from games, whatever it happens to be. If it's a dice roll, if it's card draw, it doesn't matter, but just have something in there to change up the plays and the decisions.
That's interesting because I guess catch-up mechanisms is very important. And can you think of any examples in cooperative games that do that? I can't think of any off the top of my head necessarily, apart from the Pandemic's Legacies, perhaps.
Yeah, there are some. I know Zia, Legends of the Drift,
I
has a good
still want
one.
to play that. Yeah.
Yeah, where you'll get, I can't remember what you get. You get something. It's been a while since I played it, and you'll catch up to what the AI bot, whatever it's doing. So that one's got one in it. There's not many that do have catch-up mechanisms. I think they kind of
No.
like you suffer your own demise if you make a bad
Yeah.
choice. But
Okay, interesting. And have you tried? I mean, the only parts of, I guess, Ares Expedition that I haven't really discovered, because again, speaking about Andor, I want to try all different characters. I want to try all the
mhm.
stuff. Same with, which isn't many, but I have got the expansion packs and stuff. But with Ares Expedition, have you tried that co-op out of interest?
Oh my
I
gosh,
don't
I
know if you
love the
played.
co-op. Love a co-op.
Really
Yeah.
excellent. Oh, look, I may get a chance to play it tomorrow, but like last week or something, there's numerous games we get ready to play, and then end up playing other stuff. There's a few things that I am keen to play. Dan King sent something, so there's a few things I want to get done, and obviously Western Legends to then play, and then at least I can get some table space back. So there's some interesting stuff going on here. What's your view on components in a game out of interest? Do you, for example, I don't know, round components better than square ones, but then round ones roll? And in Fields of Valor, I actually tried flicking it, and it never actually turned over. So very, very odd. But yeah, views on that.
Yeah, components, as long as they as I'm more critical of the graphic design. In my everyday job, I do a lot of usability, user experience stuff, and so looking
Oh,
at the graphic
lovely.
design and understanding when you sit down at a table, seeing patterns, and when patterns are not consistent through a game, that drives me nuts. Like, come on, guys, you have this established. Let's leverage it through the whole game. So that
Yeah.
jumps out. But component wise, I think that comes down to a lot of times we have discussions on miniatures or not, and because miniatures are fun. Don't get me wrong. I have a 3D printer. I love printing miniatures, but I'm kind of over the games with tons of miniatures in them. It just becomes a storage hassle, and they're fun. Don't get me wrong, but I kind of like it when there's only a few miniatures for like the main heroes you're playing in the game or the main characters, and then have standees or something for everything else. It makes it way easier to
Yeah.
manage and store. So that's kind of where I land on one component wise.
Cool. I haven't. Have you played Tainted Grail or maybe the Jaws of the Lion and stuff like that?
I played Gloomhaven. I haven't played Jaws and Lion, and I haven't played Tainted Grail. But are you referring to the standees in that one? I'm guessing.
Yes, I was going to say. Well, I'll talk about Tainted Grail first, I guess. So,
Mhm.
based on, I guess, the canon or the order in which I played them. So, he did complete Tainted Grail. It took over 2 years because of COVID and stuff, but he finally completed it about a week or two ago. And yeah, obviously, a whole extra box for the monsters because that was kind of an all-in package, as you mentioned earlier as well. And then Gloomhaven I had played years ago, and has standees very much like Andor. But
Mhm.
then, having played Jaws the Lion, which we started after playing, this different groups, but after playing Tainted Grail, having actually these miniatures sitting on the map and thinking like, no, with a shadow or something, it seems really effective. It it just changed it up quite dramatically.
Sure.
I know, of course, they are now creating miniatures, and I have met Isaac in person at Essen 2018. Do you go to conventions? Are you heading over to Essen? Have you been there before out of interest?
I've not been to Essen. I used to travel to Germany regularly, like almost every year, like maybe twice a year, once a year. My previous job, but now I don't travel to Germany as much anymore. But I remember I would always look at Essen's schedule, and I was thinking a week off for a work trip and being able to attend Essen. Like, oh, almost got it. So I haven't been to Essen yet. I want to do it, but I've been to Gen Con frequently. I used to go every year. I've stopped due to COVID recently, but I'm hoping to go back soon.
Yes, I mean, I did. So I did Essen 2018. We drove there. 2019, 2020, obviously the digital one. And as per the prior broadcast I did, I happened to receive some games which were related to that were coming out. So if you want to be able to do a press pass kind of stuff, the first time I applied, thankfully I did have some stuff. And it seems as if, I don't know, either nobody got the memo or something, but I had 38 videos, which was all on the front page of the game section, which is the second link, speaking of user experience, at the front page, and then you go to games. So it was really handy to see that. And because last year it was on, but you had to wear masks. And after experiencing it at the UK Games Expo, I thought, now I'll leave it. It's masks again this year, I believe, but we may well drive, if not next year. It's one of the two for sure. But we did book our hotel 13 months in advance. So you basically booked it. You have to book your hotel if you want it without paying silly money. I mean, you're talking easily double the price. Yeah, you book it before the next one's going to happen, basically. That's how far advanced you need to book it. So where in Germany, out of interest, did you travel into? Which city?
Mannheim. Mannheim is normally one too. Okay. But I drove all over Germany too. Worked for John Deere for a while there, which is a farming agriculture company.
And that's massive in the north. Yeah. That's where my wife's from. Very much farming. She lives outside of a hamlet. That's, everyone just talks and watches tractors. Everyone's just got tractor mugs and stuff like that. So class and all that kind of stuff. So there we go. Nice. Very good.
It's all over the place. But yeah, I used to visit the farms out there and talk with customers and stuff, and it was fun. My colleague, he actually was bilingual. He was born in Mannheim, but he spoke English as well, so he'd translate for me. And he also played board games, so it was fun because whenever we visited Mannheim, we would actually go visit his parents and we'll play games with him. It was really fun because I only know enough German to get by, passing phrases. But it was really fun to sit down and play a game that we cannot communicate via normal language, but we can have this shared experience at the table still. It's just always really cool.
And it's so nice that they actually want to play games because, with my in-laws, go there for Christmas or whatever, and we're just gaming all day sometimes. If the mum's busy, I'll play with the dad or vice versa, and we'll play sometimes lighter games. Sometimes we have played the Lord of the Rings, the board game, which is a bit too long for them, especially for that first play. But play Quicks, and we play Knockmal and Bonanza and Port Royal and various things of that ilk. So yes, it was really enjoyable. So very, very fun. And in terms of user experience, I'm really into user experience. Just follow that flow. And it's a shame how YouTube Studio doesn't actually have functionality which allows you just to stream with somebody else. It's ridiculous in this day and age with Google and stuff like that. In terms of, obviously, you mentioned about backing stuff on Kickstarter, I'm assuming. What about the likes of GameFound? What's your views on using them? Do you think that you're using them more? Do you think more people use them more? Do you think there's more of a switch? Do you think they'll overtake them? What's your take on that?
Yeah, between the two platforms, by what they offer, I love GameFound more than Kickstarter for sure. Like, it's not a question to me. The only thing I don't like about GameFound is their email updates, because the Kickstarter updates, you open the email and everything's there. I don't have to go anywhere else. But for GameFound, I have to click a link to go to the GameFound page. Not a huge deal. It's one additional click, but it would be nice to have it all on one page as well. But like being able to sign up early and get the updates even when you haven't backed it. Because sometimes content creation, I want to follow a game even if I didn't back it personally for whatever reasons. Normally because of budget reasons. So, yeah. But I still want to know about it, and I like what they're doing, and so it's nice to be able to follow along with them in that sense. I know Kickstarter has the most eyeballs on it for sure, and I don't think it's going to change. But I've been talking to other publishers and seeing what they're going with, and I'm seeing a more and more head towards GameFound. So I think it's going to be a slow trickle, and I think the competition is good for Kickstarter, honestly, to see if they make some improvements to keep their base, or if they decide to see what happens.
Yeah, I think costs-wise, it's roughly the same. It's very minimal between the two, like within 10%, which is minimal from I guess a creator point of view. In terms of eyeballs, you're talking, I think, 15 times more people use Kickstarter, but then you are in a sea of so many other people. So how are you going to stand out? My view, perhaps, though, is start on Kickstarter, but only if you're successful, which means you have to be good enough anyway. And there's various reasons to prove that. And it's still difficult to prove yourself. You think about, Harry Potter, that was rejected lots of times. So it's not just that simple. But then I think GameFound is more for the more established ones. And I was just thinking that maybe if you jump straight to GameFound, they might not know who you are. So might go, but then equally, it might go, well, if they're on GameFound, they must be good, if that makes sense. It's an interesting kind of, can you pre-game it? I'm not sure. And then what's your views on maybe going live on both of them? Because if there's no kind of sunken cost initially, I don't know how much the creation of a page is. And you talked about your own game creation. I mean, you could go down the publisher route and see how that goes. Would you like to self-publish, or would you be more interested, especially with the user experience? And any view on that?
Yeah, I don't know if you'd ever want to do both. I feel like you would split your audience, and you would have like conversation A over here, and maybe conversation A would happen again over there. And I feel like if you consolidate that to one spot, it'd be better for everyone. If someone asks a question, then we can just have one source of truth, essentially. Not to mention the funding would be all over the place. But I always think about self-publishing versus going through Kickstarter or something like that. Honestly, for me personally, I'm not sure what I would do there. I think it'd be more of a necessity than a choice. I mean, because I know Mike and Peter, they're on One Stop Co-op Shop. They've designed a few games, and they've got other games coming out. Their latest one that was announced was Mega Man. That's going through Mega Man Adventures, I believe. It's going through Blacklist Games, and they have other games as well for that. And so they were talking about they have a new game they want to hit the table, and this one they're going to self-publish. Mostly because it's sometimes hard to get publishers to jump on board in some ideas, right, and get that feedback. And sometimes it's a long wait, and then a big push at the end of like, hey, we need all these things ready to go, and it gets hard to get that constant feedback and that motion going for certain things. So I mean, I'm just regurgitating from what I heard from them. I am not a designer, so I have a name on a couple cards, and that's all I have for my design cred. So
that's fine. No, it's really interesting. So, would you think about doing? They've obviously collaborated, but would you consider collaboration, or do you think you kind of got your idea and you might say like, "This is my game. Yeah, if someone's tweaking it, then they can have secondary credit or something," or do you think you're probably able to flesh it out? Because from my experience, I was never interested in making a game, just as I was never going to do YouTube or Instagram. It's after 4 years me saying no, that I'll try it, and thankfully, well, people want to watch it, so it's fine. So in terms of making a game, I kind of thought, all right, let's just. So one thing there's obviously a theme that I dislike, not a theme, but a mechanism. And I'll say first. So for example, area control isn't my favorite. I'm not saying I hate it, but there are so many more that I just love so much for various reasons. So in terms of area control, I thought, well, how about I make one? Because, face your nemesis, that kind of stuff. So I thought, okay, let's make a quick game, printed something out, grab some spare cubes from Grand Austria Hotel when they got replaced with Etsy pieces or whatever, and then just like plonked it around and did something. And within half an hour, I thought, oh, this kind of works, two-handing it, and then quickly wrote up some rules in Excel, I think it was, then transferred it to Word. Under 3 pages, printed it out, went to some gaming groups, tried this out. Oh, yeah. And they were able to play it, in half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour, different player counts. And, had some feedback. I went, wow, I haven't done anything with it because it's gone through some iterations, but it's not really the game I want to launch if I did launch it. There are other games I'd rather do and rather play myself. But then again, it could be like, yeah, I can release this now because other people like it. But equally, it's effective. So is there any themes or mechanisms that you are drawn to or not drawn to?
I think being a co-op player, anytime I see semi-co-op on the box is a big like, oh, one versus many. That is just a big like, oh, you're so close to being co-op. Come on, just push them the other way. Because the other thing about like one versus many is oftentimes I'm the one, and I never get a chance to be the many or try that out very often because normally I'm the one reading the rule books and going through the motions of it, and it's hard to pass that mantle over. And honestly, sometimes people don't even want to don that mantle. So that's one of them. One of them that I see that I don't think I dislike. It just does nothing for me. Is polynomials. So like
Okay.
Tetris type pieces, like Feast for Odin, for example. Um, Nothing against putting that stuff together. I'm fine with it, but it just doesn't do anything for me. Kind of like I'm just doing this action, and there's no relation to the action I'm doing
Themeless.
versus the game.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Yeah, no, it's interesting points. And polyominoes, I don't know if they're the new roll and write or vice versa. There are just so many of them. And maybe it's because they're quite easy to make. You're cutting out pieces and just,
yeah,
who knows?
sure.
That's interesting conversation where, this forum that we're having. So I haven't got too many other questions really to ask. I guess, is there anything else? You've talked a little bit about what you might recommend, but anything else more about if people want to check something out, or you've talked about the most played game and the most played game recently, but how about most played game of last month or anything like that? I mean, I've got my stats that I can show you too as well if that's handy, but anything that you think like, yeah, I'm rediscovering it and such like that.
Yeah, like I said, I've been playing through Assassin's Creed, which I'm loving. But the other one that I'll mention, and since we talked about it, is Ares Expedition. You mentioned that one, and I'm enjoying it so much that we play like 2 or 3 times back to back at night with my wife and I playing co-op, and it's got to the point where even solo rules are slightly different than co-op, and I've been just playing. I just house rule the co-op rules in solo mode because I like the co-op rules way better for that one. Mostly because I felt like there was more meaning behind the victory points. Because in solo, you kind of lose some of that. To sense, it's like, hey, terraform and see what your score is.
Oh, you literally flip your cards over.
Yeah.
But I guess you don't communicate. Is that how you house rule it? So obviously you don't know what your wife's going to do, for example, and then you go, right. Is that kind of how you might do it, rather than an AI doing randomly?
Yeah. When you play co-op, at least it is. You can talk about what phase you're playing, what phase or what is that the phase card? Yeah, the phase card you're playing,
Yeah.
and then the actual card you're playing. You're not supposed to say exactly what cards you're going through your hand,
Yeah.
but you can play however you want. It's not that big of a deal. No one's come up. No board game police are come knocking your doors like, "Hey, you got that rule wrong." So, but
well, that is the thing when you do. At least when I do playthroughs, for example, solo, because I generally prefer multiplayer games, because if I play it solo, and especially if I play it recorded, because I'll give it a go and see how I do. But actually, when you play it recorded, then there's no one there to leave. Oh, you made a mistake doing that, until you get a thumbs down or whatever. And like, oh, sorry, it's not intentional. I'm not trying to make people, comment about it or anything like that. And in terms of one versus many, your views on, I guess, asymmetric games, any views on that, which is similar to a degree?
I actually really like I really like asymmetric games, but they have a really difficult aspect to them in the sense that, like, especially when everyone's on the same team, like U-Boat has that. Some other games not coming to mind come out too, where you have to like teach different rule set for each person. It just takes a long time to explain that stuff. And I try when I sit down to teach a game, I try to say, here's the objective, here's the pieces that lead to the objective, and let's just jump into the gameplay and learn as we go. Because generally, most people want to know how as you go and how to play the game. The downside to that is sometimes you come to a rule like, oh, by the way, this rule's in place, and be like, well, I wish I would know that earlier, which is unfortunate. You can't win all the battles there, but at least I think that's the best way of approaching it. And the asymmetric makes it difficult from that standpoint.
Yeah, it is tricky. I know with like games like Root, when I spoke and talked to various groups, it's players of 2, and it is literally 30 minutes per player. And then next time you're playing and teaching new players and going through the whole rules again, and it's a 3 and a 4 and a 5 and a 6, and all the rest. So it does. When I'm saying 5 and a 6, we're talking about the Riverfolk expansion. So you've got obviously 7 Wonders, the first edition there. Do you have anything mixed into that? Because that is, I mean, what's your view on this? Is that an asymmetric game in the sense that you do have variable player powers? It's not a truly asymmetric game, but you do start off differently. And I did a poll on Facebook, and most people are saying it is asymmetric because it is. No one can do what you can do because of your board and stuff like that. So yeah, just curious in your thoughts.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I have a more restrictive definition of asymmetric. Because to me, 7 Wonders
Different
is like
goals.
most games where you have character powers or player powers. Like, this is a power only I do. This is something only I do. But to me, when I think of asymmetry, I think of here's a rule set for me specifically.
Yeah.
As opposed to like 7 Wonders, the rule set's the same for everyone. It doesn't matter. It's just I have this power. So I can understand it, but I think I would categorize it a little bit differently.
Yes, I mean, having a different goal typically is one thing. I think is something you can do in your turn. It's all the same for 7 Wonders, and that's where I think it differs. So maybe from a resource point of view, but so I do have a list of currently is at 44 different asymmetric games, like Hnefatafl, which is obviously an abstract strategy game, combinatorial. But there obviously are games like Root, which obviously really are asymmetric, and a few other games obviously in that by that designer, such as Vast and things like that. So yeah, it's quite an interesting thing, and I'm definitely keen to try out. But yeah, I'm pretty much done with everything I was going to go through. Was there anything else that you wanted to plug, shout out, or anything like that before I know we never catch up again next time?
No, I think this was a lot of fun. I really appreciate you taking time to sit up with me. I'm glad this worked out because I know sometimes time zones get a little difficult across the pond, but glad it worked out for us. So.
No, it's been nice. I mean, it's been quite handy that I don't know if it's just where all the gamers are over there, but it seems to be Eastern time is where everyone is. So for me, it's really straightforward. It's like 5 hours. I know that one, and I've got used to it. And it's nice to vary it up because obviously I chat a lot to people in the UK in person, and there's definitely differences. I generally find, which you may notice, that sci-fi, I think, is prevalent not only in movies and stuff like that, but over in the States and obviously North America, you're finding more people are playing board games which have a sci-fi theme, whereas in obviously Europe, you're quite familiar with farming, agricola, and obviously agriculture and anything with sheep. Sheep in space is going to be the big crossover there, I guess. But it just seems to be that's that's how it is. So if you go to Japan, you're going to get something wacky. You know what I mean? that's the other, I guess, tip in the iceberg there. But well, no, that's been fantastic just to hear obviously your take on things. I've made loads of interesting notes about obviously U-Bolt and various other things I'm keen to check out. Obviously, Defenders of the Realm and things like that. And I'll let you know how obviously LOTR, the card game, goes as well. That should be a great discovery. And I look forward to again chatting in soon, chatting on Discord. Best of the month, and it looks like you have something else you want to say. So I'll leave it back to you. Yeah, go for it.
I'll mention if you're getting to Lord of the Rings living card game, there is a site online called Dragon Cards, DRAGN. So cards, and this is a site that was created by specific for Lord of the Rings living card game, and it is fantastic. Okay. It's got a learning curve to use the interface, but it's all scripted and programmed and everything. It's a really good way of playing that game remotely if you're interested in playing that one. So.
Oh wow! Okay, cool. That's very interesting. Yeah, because I've been literally given a copy by someone who's gone back to Germany, funnily enough. Sure. So the cards have been airing a lot because he left it with a very heavy smoker. So they've been very, 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 very well aired, let's say. And thankfully, the smell has gone. Is it anything like I forgot the name of that website. I'm sure you know about it. Marvel Champions website, where you can obviously know a lot about obviously the statistics behind it. Because in a way, that also has a bit of a dampener for me, obviously the game, because I now know statistically I can now beat Rhino 83.7% time. It's like, oh, okay. So you're familiar with that one? I can't remember. It's called something of Champions.
It's Rings DB, I think, is the where it started. I'm not sure if they have stats on which scenarios are beaten by what, but at least there you can find decks of cards. And so the nice thing is, even with that Dragon Cards site I mentioned, you can go, this deck looks interesting. You could download it, or not even download it, just find the number, plug in the Dragon Cards, and it'll pull all the cards in. You can just try it out. It takes like 2 seconds to set up a game like that. So it makes it really fun to experiment and try out different decks and see what people built and why they built it.
Cool. I know, obviously, Best of the Month isn't ended yet. I think I still know what I'm going to pick. Don't tell me. Do you have any view on what you might chuck in there this month out of interest without spoiling it?
I don't know. The biggest issue is I've been playing a lot of previews this week or recently. I've been playing Deep Rock Galactic. Speaking of space themes, because this is apparently all I've been playing lately. Deep Rock Galactic, Earth Under Siege, and then the Leviathan Wilds are the ones I've been playing recently, and those are all upcoming. Or actually, Earth Under Siege is on Kickstarter now, and then Deep Rock just ended recently. So these are all previews. So I'm like, well, do I put a preview in? Do I pick something else out? I don't know yet. We'll see. I'm sure something else will pop up on my list. I'll be playing that a lot recently or soon. So,
okay. And in terms of any previews, have you ever said no to anyone? Again, don't name them. Don't unless you want to. But and do you say a majority? Like, would you say? For me, I'm at about probably 60%. I'm declining. I'm like not interested or something like that. I don't know how close you are because I'm definitely discovering. I guess with any games, I can be very pessimistic, and I play. I'm like, wow, this is really good, especially if it's an unheard of game. And I mean, unheard of publisher. I generally go for a designer. I'm more of a designer kind of person, but I'm like, wow, this is really impressive. So, what's your take on that?
I think for us, it's more restrictive because we are one-stop co-op shop, so we focus on cooperative and solo, and we get a lot of people with competitive games or like one versus many or
Okay,
trade or stuff, and like we say no to them a lot because that doesn't fit with the niche that we're trying to fill in the board game world. There's
exactly.
plenty of channels that will cover that stuff, so there's a lot of no's there. And then the nice thing is because there's 6 of us, generally what happens is a game comes in, they tell us the description. We always ask for the rules up front because we've had some that like it sounds good, but if you don't do a skim of the rules, it could be kind of iffy. So we do a quick skim of the rules, and then between the 6 of us, we see which of us would be most likely to enjoy it. Because
Okay, cool.
if we're gonna cover it, might as well have someone have fun with it, right? So then we send it to that person.
Cool. Yeah, I noticed I was sent a game. It did take months. In fact, they lost the copy coming from the States. And so they had another copy sent. And it finally arrived. This was back in December, January, and they should have sent it. It arrived a few days ago. And they did say, here's the new set of rules. So that was a digital thing. I looked through them and it was like 24 pages, but it was just and there weren't many pictures, but actually, it was one of the easiest rule books I've ever read because the bottom of it is like, oh, these are different modes and stuff like that. And actually, I like highlighted certain words for certain stuff. So very impressed with that. And when you did say you rejected a lot, and when the names of the titles you suggested and you were talking about, my opinion was that they're probably going to be cooperative games. So when you were telling me you rejected a lot, I was stunned to know they weren't even co-op. So I'd thought that people would at least know who you were, and it sounds like they weren't doing their research, weren't doing their audience. And similar to some other, I guess, alliances that I have, again across the pond, it's definitely an opportunity. I'm not suggesting I should be the 7th or any kind of ringer, but in terms of be your across the pond co-opper, whoever knows. But by all means, I can speak about that another time. But no, like I said, this has been obviously fantastic to catch up with you. I'll make sure I put obviously a description through, or you tell me what you want in there, and I'll put that in the description as well. So obviously this is recorded live, but I'll also be putting through a recording, which I'll publish some point later on this month. I've got everything scheduled every day now until about the 26th of March. But I'll definitely chuck it in the next few days if I can and move something else. And again, I'll speak to you soon and speak to you again on Discord, etc.
Sounds good.
So,
can't wait for it.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. And thanks again. And cheers, Steve.
Thank you, Simon. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers, welcome. Okay, bye for now. See ya.
Cheers.